the universe is a spiritual entity. It's a one being that is fragmented into apparent separation. And we're all here to reunify and to come back into oneness. And as long as we keep that goal, that we realize that other people are projections of ourselves, the consciousness field changes everything we think. That's what the film does such a magnificent job of, is talking about what we call the meditation effect. You get 7,000 people together, meditating under one roof, and it's almost like it cools down everybody's mind on the planet. People relax, they're less likely to commit aggression, they're less likely to commit war, there's fewer fatalities, there's fewer, all sorts of things that are anti-life will just decrease, up to like 75% all around the world. And so this harmonic interconnectedness that we share from consciousness proves that ultimately we are not separate at all. The mind that I have one moment is a mind that's flowing to you the next moment, that's flowing to the listener the next moment, and it's all part of a common unified consciousness that we all dip into, sort of like accessing the internet. And some people call it the 100th monkey effect. Some people, we have a great study from Dr. Rupert Sheldrake, in which if you show people a particular hidden figure puzzle where it's like a connect the dots, and you time how long it takes them to solve the puzzle, if those are the first people to ever solve the puzzle, it might take them, 60 seconds to solve the puzzle. If you take that same puzzle, put it on national television so that millions of people see it, and then you find other people and you've confirmed that they did not see that television show, like let's say they're in Papua New Guinea or something. There's no way they could have seen the television. Then you give them the same test and you do a before and an after. After some people have worked intellectually on that puzzle, you give them the same puzzle later, another random set of people, and they're going to solve it much, much faster. Because now the solution is embedded into the collective mind of humanity.
So some people say, well, I don't want to write my dreams down because they don't seem to make any sense. Well, your dream could be talking about something in the future that you haven't seen yet. And it could be very much that you're guided one day to just pick up your dream book and go take a read. And you go read something that was an old dream, and you're like, oh my God, now I understand, now I get it, this just happened to me. So dreams are a really marvelous resource. I can't stress this enough, that any dream you have is a symbolic message of the single most important thing you need to know for that moment in your life. The most important thing, regardless of what anyone tells you, is that every single character in the dream is you. There is no other person in your dream. There is no character that refers to anyone but yourself. And your dreams will tell you the problems that you have in your past, and they will focus on those issues that are now reiterating into your present. So this is a very important point. When something happens to you in the past that hurts you, a lot of times you don't process it, you don't deal with it, you don't cleanse it and heal it and get it out of your system. And it actually represents what you could think of as a weight that's pulling you down on the timeline of your life. And if that weight is pulling you down on the timeline, then the timeline of your life doesn't move forward. It loops back around in a circle. And you end up repeating the same experiences with new people that caused you to feel so hurt and so shattered in the past. You can break out of that cycle by paying attention to your dreams, realizing how each character might be some person that you know from the past, and that person, what that person meant for you and how they might have hurt your feelings or any type of thing that happened with that person is entirely relevant to what the dream means. You want to ask yourself what each part of the dream means. What could it mean? What could this symbolize about myself? What could this person symbolize? What could the things they were saying symbolize? What could the things they were doing symbolize? How does it all fit together? And what does it mean for me right now?
The only things that happen on this planet are things that are allowed to happen based on the reflection of what work we still have to do as a society. So the more we heal ourselves, the more healing will occur in the world. And so by opening your heart and feeling that sense of calm and that sense that everything is well, you can effectively stave off the negative effects of this epidemic and keep yourself above the fray. But even more intrinsically than that, the field itself responds very, very positively to being in a state of love and gratitude and peace, even if you don't talk to anyone and you just live alone, because you're generating an energy that actually affects others in a very positive way. That's the whole point of my film, is giving you the scientific proof showing that if enough people just simply turn off the TV, turn off the negative news, get back to the trust, get back to the sense that all is well, that everything is going to be fine, then just by being alive and staying positive, you're actually helping other people that you'll never see and you'll never meet. And so on one level, you're building up your bank account, but on another level, you're also very strongly helping people right now by just giving them that positive vibration that really does lift up the planet. It reduces violence. It reduces aggression. It reduces fatalities. It strengthens the economy. It gets rid of all the negative elements. All these things happen as a field effect when we move into that sense of positivity and gratitude within ourselves.
If you do the work on yourself, if you do the spiritual work, you will get to a point where you can start to experience the field of consciousness as a direct personal thing. And this is best done in deep meditation. A lot of people are looking for some kind of placebo, some kind of like take acid or have the hemisync tapes from the Monroe Institute, or the glasses that you wear when you're asleep and they shine color in your eyes, or there's any number of gadgets and gizmos out there that people want to use to try to short-circuit the process and gain immediate access to your higher self. Well, it doesn't really work that way. You can't just crash the gate because it can be very damaging. Your shadow self is what you have to move through to get to the fruits of the higher self. The shadow is what guards the gate.
You remember Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, when he talks about death row inmates, right? And every single one of them, down to the last man, will say that he is not a criminal, that he did not do anything wrong. So when you expand that to the larger view, we're all inside prone to see ourselves in unflinchingly positive view. It is unflattering, actually, when you look at yourself only as positive, because you never really grow. When we only look at ourselves as positive, what happens is we manifest on a global level very negative elements that only want to look positive from the outside, like the government, like these politicians. And they portray this false image, and it's just like the false image that we're all living in our own lives, where like you have a guy who comes home to his wife every night right after he's been porking his secretary in the back office. Right. So there's people that are knowingly deceiving others with a smile on their face. And we're doing this in our personal lives, and it's only when we start changing that and we learn to be more honorable that we will no longer have these things happening in the outer world where we're seeing the big level. So in other words, the larger level, the Illuminati, the politics, all the corruption, is the projection so that we can see a mirror of ourselves. Look, the bottom line is that it's a holographic universe, and our thoughts create manifestations. So just like earlier, I was talking about how there is a consciousness field and how the top of the onion will cause another onion to grow. That same consciousness field is what turns thoughts into things. And as a result of us having our own internal blockages and our own internal corruption, that has holographically projected itself into the government and the political structures around us, so that they have become a reflection of the unhealed work within ourselves. So, again, forgiveness.
Sure. We created the bad guys.
Exactly.
If you have a negative thought about yourself, you don't love yourself, that doesn't mean everybody comes and loves you. That means that you attract people to yourself who don't love you. When you meditate, when you chill out, when you play it cool, all these other metaphors of cooling it down, chill out, you're actually processing other people's energy. You're processing other people's karma. You do your own work, and you take some of the burden off of everyone else. So we're actually healing the earth, we're healing each other, and it has a direct radiant effect on the universe around us. And that is the most powerful thing. If people learned that they could sit at home and pay nothing and simply do their process and get in touch with their creative spark and become the creator by creating and enjoy yourself and get your passion, follow your bliss, right, you are healing the world.
one of the things that this synchronicity intrusion starts to do is it starts to sculpt how you think about what you want, because it will only happen when you're on the right track for what your higher self wants you to be doing. If you start getting locked up in a pursuit that's not in alignment with your purpose, then you're going to notice the synchronicities will wear off.
So
they won't be happening.
It won't manifest then.
Yeah. Synchronicities are showing you that you're on the right track. They're showing you that you're doing what your purpose has dictated. And therefore, it's a really important thing to use them as a gauge to assess how close you are to what your soul's purpose is. Because when you're on track with your soul's purpose, you can expect them to happen almost on a day-to-day basis.
You reach a point in your cosmic evolution where God is not something out there that you're saying, oh, there it is. It's within. So how could you be a messiah on a planet? How could anybody be? Because that implies that it's somebody else, right? It's not somebody else, it's you. You are the Christ consciousness. If you believe in reincarnation, why would you be spiritually growing? Are you just going to reincarnate and keep redoing this over and over again? No. You get to a certain point where you've learned everything you can learn from being on Earth, and you're ready to go and do something else. You're ready to go to a higher place where you don't have to suffer so much.
And one of the most fascinating discoveries goes back to the practitioners of transcendental meditation, where they found that if they had a gathering of 7,000 people, and those people meditated for a whole week together, that the overall worldwide amount of terrorist activity, war, violent crime, car accidents, all of those things substantially decreased. In fact, in one gathering, they decreased worldwide by 72%. So here, this is where it gets fascinating, because although some of these things could be caused by sunspots or other astrological factors, various planetary movements, other aspects of it is that we can control the field ourselves. And when people calm themselves down as groups, then that has a field effect that will calm other people down. But there are multiple studies that have been done that show that if you live next door to someone, that the rate at which you breathe, the rate at which your heart rate is pumping, the rate at which the electrical activity is happening on your skin, all of these physiological factors synchronize with the body of the person who lives next door to you. Even if you never talk to the guy that you live next door to, which I know in London probably happens all the time. It sure does here in L.A. So this is not just pseudoscience. This is stuff that's been studied, and this is stuff that's been laboratory documented. There's a guy named Dr. William Broad who has shown that you can have somebody in a room and have a secret camera aimed at them, and they don't even realize it, and you wire up their skin for how much electrical activity they have. And when you have someone stare at them in a monitor in another room, then that person's electrical activity that's being stared at goes way, way up, and they have no idea they're being stared at. They don't feel anything, they don't notice anything, but their body does. Everybody sends me these emails, and they're saying, what should I do? They want to make the right decision. Should I go here or should I go there? Because one of them is the right one and one of them is the wrong one. Should I stay with my partner or should I leave my partner? Because one of them is the right one and one of them is the wrong one. And that's actually not how it works.
Correct.
The most important thing you can do is make a decision.
Yes.
Not that one is right and the other one is wrong, but that you go through a process of analyzing your opportunities in one direction or the other based on what you think is going to happen, and make an informed choice about what you want to do. Meditation is not about emptiness. People are like, oh my gosh, if I have any thoughts at all, it's bad. That's not true. It's not true. All you want to do is avoid the effort of thinking. Your mind actually doesn't do any work. That's the key. That's the essence. It's the flow. It's the flow of genius. It's the flow of improvisational music or great poetry or great art or whatever. You set your ego out of the way, and then things start happening spontaneously in your mind, and you don't need to do any work to get them to happen. They just show up. They bubble to the surface. You don't have to think. You don't exert any effort. And in fact, if you try to think, you feel yourself getting pulled out of this state of mind. We've always thought that the mind is this function of the neurological activity in the brain, that basically it's a bunch of nerve cells firing off. And that's what we're thinking with. Well, there's a problem with that. It's a very simple problem. We have statistically documented, provable evidence that people have died and they're brain dead, and they have a continuity of experience. They keep thinking, they keep experiencing, but
Right.
they're not in their body, and their body is showing no brainwave activity.
Right.
Well, how in the world could that be possible if the brainwave activity and the nerves in the brain were what you were using to think with? It may very well be that what you're thinking with is almost entirely a phenomenon of energy and may not really involve your brain more than sort of like an antenna. The brain is basically tuning into your field to transduce your thoughts, which may be coming from this unseen energy pattern. And then you can talk about the difference between sort of online and offline thinking. And offline thinking would be thinking that's generated from the body, which you will have. Obviously, you're going to have regulatory mechanisms in the medulla that will keep your heart pumping and keep your, cerebrospinal fluid flowing and keep the white blood cells going where they need to go and doing their healing and all these autonomic nervous system functions. But any of the more involved thinking, anything that's more cognitive, analytical, all those functions seem to be occurring in the energy field. And this would also explain why you can separate the skin cells from someone's mouth and store them vast distances away from where they are, as long as the cells are still alive. And those cells will respond to the shocks that that person has. They will electrically spike when the person's own body is showing a sudden electrical change from having a shock reaction. So this is really what we're dealing with. Consciousness is a non-local field, and your mind, to some degree, is a function of its environment.
First of all, there is a one creator. The universe itself is an intelligent, living organism. It's an infinity. But the organism itself has created free will for each co-creator, and we are the co-creators. People like us, planets, stars, it's all different levels of the same collaborative effort that the universe is, in which we're all given complete free will to do whatever we choose. And then from that free will, we eventually realign with oneness.